To the start of the stream. No, you can continue chatting, just sit down and chat. Sure, it's like a live TV recording. Who here knows anything about cricket? At which point do you think the Proteas are going to declare? Because at the moment, they are 250 for the loss of 4 wickets in their second innings. They lead India by 539 runs. Surely they have to declare by now so that they try and get a couple of, wait, there was a 6 there. I don't know what that means. 600. Why? India are not going to get to 600 at all. Let's try and get a couple of wickets before stumps today and then come back to day 5 with hopefully just 7 or 6 wickets to take. And then we win it for the first time in 24 years, guys. Sorry. As you can tell, I'm passionate about the cricket. All right. You can give me a thumbs up when you're ready. A very good morning, everyone, and welcome to Invest Cape Town. Today, in partnership with the Craft and Design Institute, they're presenting what I think is an important conversation, prompting the future, AI in South Africa's creative economy. My name is Africa Malane, and it's my joy and my pleasure to be facilitating the conversation that will be coming up later with some extraordinary professionals in this space and some wonderful thinking, and of course, directing the program for this morning. I can't believe I'm going to do this so early in the session, but I'm going to quote one Elon Musk. He said, "The real risk with AI isn't malice, but competence." And I don't agree a lot with what Elon Musk says, but that I do agree with, because AI is here, AI is moving, and there are wonderful opportunities to explore and, quite frankly, to exploit. And if you are not doing that, you are being left behind. And I'm hoping that the session today is going to explore what those opportunities are and how you, in the creative economy, can adopt that and make sure that you're keeping up with the market. We are streaming this live via our YouTube channel, and we welcome, of course, the UNESCO City Partner Networks. It is bright, shining, hot in Cape Town, and please make sure you come and enjoy the incredible Mother City this summer. It really is going to be a good one. And those who are joining us here at Invest Cape Town at the City Hall, lovely to have you. Thank you very much for making the time. We're hoping for some robust engagement around this space. If you are following the stream and you have any questions or thoughts for the panel, you're most welcome to use the chat function in order to share your questions. They'll be fed through me, and then I will pose those questions to the panel, of course. The data is showing that Cape Town is certainly aware of AI, and a high percentage actually are starting to adopt it. But the data also shows us that there's a great sense of apprehension and fear when it comes to artificial intelligence. We will explore those and acknowledge them at the very least, and hopefully give you some practical tools of how you can overcome those fears and apprehension and start adopting the incredible tool that is AI. For the official welcome to this proceeding, please welcome the Group CEO of the Craft and Design Institute, the incredibly talented Erica Alk.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to those of you here who braved the heat and apparently the parking challenge. It's fine, I think. Yeah. And to those of you online. So I don't know about many are looking at the audience, many of you in the audience, but my Facebook algorithm sends me on like a continuous basis those adverts about people over 60 aren't using AI properly. They think ChatGPT is AI. Okay, so yeah. So my relationship with AI and the technology is pretty much limited to helping me write Don't Listen, Soraya, funding proposals, and do budgets and risk matrices and things like that. And really, it helps amazingly. But I know that I'm not actually using or understanding, in fact, the environment. So I think for us in the creative industries, AI feels like a really banal thing to say, but it is the most pressing danger, but it is also the most present opportunity. And I think it feels like we are in that space in South Africa, where actually if we can understand AI and the opportunity of it and the value of it, and embrace it, actually there's the potential for us to leapfrog a lot of the structural inhibitions that are in the environment for us as creatives. But it feels like we're running out of time. It sort of feels like we are running on the same spot, and we are talking about this. We've been saying the same things, or maybe I should say I've been saying the same things for a long time, and actually it feels like we need, like, what are we doing about it? So this part of doing, I think, is having these conversations over and over again, because I think the more you talk about it, the more you have access to what is going on, what the platforms are, whatever, the more, I think you have then a greater ability to harness the potential. So I think what I'm feeling as the CDI is that we need to be having these conversations more and more often, but we also need to be drilling down into the different aspects of AI tools at an ideation level, at a creation or production level, at distribution, at marketing, etc. So that the more we talk about it, the deeper we get. And then, of course, what are the things that are needed in terms of capacity building or skills development for people to actually take advantage of AI. So I know we've got an incredible lineup of speakers. I'm not an expert on AI, as you can hear. And I think that actually, I can't wait to listen to what they have to say and share with us. And I encourage you all to be participating in these conversations more and more. And if there are any questions that you have or ideas around, well, how do we follow this up? How do we make this practical? What other conversations do we need to have? Our doors are always open. So feed us that information, and then it helps us craft the conversations going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Erica. She was most disappointed that we are not going to have any slides showing pictures and images of things, but we did promise that we'll share that widely after the conversation, because they can be distracting sometimes, and I think let's rather engage with the conversation and the dialogue more so than seeing pictures. And there's a lady whose phone went off. Today would have been the late Percy Sledge's birthday. And When a Man Loves a Woman is an incredible song that he recorded in the 60s. And the next cell phone, smartwatch, or anything to make a noise during this formal part of the conversation, you will come up on stage and sing your rendition of When a Man Loves a Woman. So just make sure that, please, you have taken those. I appreciate it's a working day, but have it on vibrate so that it doesn't disturb the rest of the team. For the official welcome from the City of Cape Town, please welcome the Principal Growth Coalitions Officer for Growth Coalitions Branch in the Economic Development and Investment Department of the City of Cape Town, Soraya Muhedin.
Good morning. Welcome, everyone, to the Invest Cape Town Centre. Welcome to our in-person guests, our online audience from around South Africa and beyond. Thank you, Erica, and to our amazing panel of experts for being here, for helping us start to unpick a little bit of this boogeyman sometimes that seems to be AI, and unpacking what the opportunities could be in that. So today's event, I believe, is really more than a conversation. We are at a crossroads, and the creative industry is one of those industries and sectors we believe that could either really harness that opportunity or implode under the pressure of that fear. We're here to explore how AI is reshaping design, music, advertising, writing, animation, we've spoken about this morning, gaming, and broader creative industries. It's a space for ideas, for us to understand what the practical tools are, the ethical considerations, as well as to find the opportunities and collaboration opportunities as well. South Africa as a creative economy is rich, it's diverse, and it is innovative. We're now entering the phase where AI tools are transforming how our creators work, produce, and distribute their work, whether it's text to image, generative music, automated editing, or AI-assisted scripting. Far from replacing creativity, AI expands the toolkit, but it does raise important questions. How do we ensure fair labor practices? How do we protect our creators' rights and intellectual property? How do we make sure that AI is inclusive and not exclusive? Today is about answering some of those questions, and to get answering some of those questions within South Africa's unique creative context. And again, I'd like to point out, to shout out our online audience that are joining us from creative cities from across the world, as Cape Town is a creative city of design in the UNESCO network. So, our creative economy is a powerful driver of jobs, South Africa and Cape Town's cultural identity, and our global influence. With the right support, be that skills development, enterprise development, policy frameworks, responsible AI practice and investment, we can position Cape Town as a leader in creative AI on the continent. We have the talent, we have the stories, and we have the entrepreneurial energy. AI is simply the next amplifier. Thank you again to the CDI, Erica, and your wonderful team, our Invest Cape Town team, who are working in the background, working in the shadows, but ever so efficiently to pull together events like this. We really appreciate the efforts into organizing today's event. And a special note of gratitude again to our panel and our skilled shepherd, or Sherpa, if we're still thinking G20 terms. Africa, thank you so much. Now I'd like to turn to someone who has been a strong advocate for technology and innovation for economic growth in our city. Alderman James Foss, who oversees economic growth, has been instrumental in championing economic growth initiatives that support business, tech, and the creative sector. Okay, so while they're busy setting up, Alderman Foss was unable to join us in person today, but he has recorded a special welcome message for you all.
Hello everyone, James Foss here. I really wish I could have joined you for your discussion on AI in South Africa's creative economy today, but sadly other duties call. Your dialogue is a most valuable one, as the increasing evolution of AI presents exciting and daunting possibilities for a wide spectrum of industries, including that of creatives. We've already seen pushback from actors and tech giants to respect human-made creations. So where does this rapidly changing technology leave South Africa's designers, filmmakers, musicians, and other creators? That's the question you're going to unpack today. The City of Cape Town is fully committed to supporting a dynamic and resilient creative economy that celebrates our diversity of communities and cultures, that celebrates our people, and that's why we fund the Craft Design Institute. The reality is, AI is unavoidable in our world today, but it can and should be a useful tool for us humans to build a better, more vibrant world. Have a great conversation, and I look forward to hearing your insights.
Thank Thank you, Alderman Frost, for that message and for your continued support of the creative economy. That was not AI. So over to you, Africa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Soraya. Round of applause, please, for Soraya Mohideen, Principal Growth Coalition's officer with the City of Cape Town. I'm now going to invite the panel to come and join me on stage for the conversation. A reminder, while I have a couple of key questions I'll be asking them, I'm going to be getting to you as quickly as possible. There will be a roving microphone for those in the audience. And then if you are joining us virtually, please use the chat function on the application, and those questions will be fed through to us. Our first panelist is Dave Duarte, who helps create leaders navigate AI transformation. By focusing on human adaptation, he founded Tree Shake, a change marketing agency that helps people step out of fear-driven narratives and into stories of opportunity, of connection, and courageous action. Our second panelist is, yes, go ahead. You can. Our second panelist is Thapelo Ntite. Thapelo is the co-founder and CEO of Botlale AI, a company developing state-of-the-art natural language processing tools for African languages. Founded while he and his co-founders were still at university, the company has gone to earn major recognition, including Heavy Chef's top 5 South African startups. I'd love to know what that means. We'll explore that when we get there. John Savage is an award-winning innovator, content strategist, and creative leader driving the future of podcasting and digital media. As a founder of the Africa Podcast Network, he's been instrumental in shaping Africa's burgeoning podcasting ecosystem, fostering a new era of digital storytelling and audience engagement. John Savage, everyone. And then finally, Irish Sloan, with an honors degree in digital arts animation. She is a Master of Arts student at the University of the Witwatersrand, where she explores the ethical integration of AI in the animation sector to optimize and future-proof production pipelines. And beyond her academic work, she actively deepens her understanding of AI across multiple domains, from governance and creative workflow optimization to practical experimentation in her day-to-day creative practice. Round of applause, please, for all of my panelists. I'm going to ask that you turn your microphones, switch them on rather would be the wording. Irish, let's start with you, simply because you're the closest to me. What are you finding to be, one, the opportunities in this space, and two, the fears and the concerns that people are bringing about, and more importantly, what are we doing to address those?
There is so much that can be said about AI in the creative space, and I think it is. Yeah.
Okay.
There's so much that can be said, and it is obviously a very daunting space to enter into, and I think that's why so many people freeze out of fear. And in my industry specifically, I've seen it a lot. Job displacement, companies going down. And I mean, I've had friends personally that have lost one job on top of the next because of AI. I mean, it's becoming so easy just to replace the work that we do with a simple prompt. Things that we study and work years towards perfecting our craft can now just be automated. So, of course, you know, these fears are totally understandable. And another thing that I've definitely noticed has been a big fear in my space is the scraping of artworks from the internet to train AI databases. You know, so there's definitely concern around copyright and IP in terms of art just being taken without consent and being mass-produced, where I think we all know that rarity or scarcity equals perceived value. And now, something that used to maybe take time to produce, specific style, specific artist, can now just be mass-produced and declining or reducing the perceived value of this person's artwork, so people are losing work. That said, that has brought me into the space of trying to sort of tackle this head-on, because it is happening, and there's nothing we can do about it. It's here, it's happening, and you're either going to face it or you're going to run. And, you know, do you want to be left behind? So I think this does bring us to the point of sort of looking at how can you embrace it as a collaborator rather than a competitor in your space. And I think this is something that probably goes for most industries and not just mine. But AI can be used in ways to optimize your processes, to speed things up, to maybe reduce the time spent on menial or redundant tasks, so that you can take your time and your skills to really refine, to go into the higher level tasks that you've maybe trained to do, instead of not wasting but spending too much time on things that may be seen as, you know, smaller, more basic tasks. And at the end of the day, something that I've found, people tend to anthropomorphize AI. You know, you talk to ChatGPT, you see it as almost like a human friend, a therapist, someone you can speak to for advice. And there are so many sort of perceived human qualities with AI. Same goes for generative AI with art. You type a prompt, it makes you something beautiful, and you're like, wow, this AI is so creative. At the end of the day, people are comparing human creativity to machine creativity, but machines aren't inherently creative, human beings are. The machine creativity comes from a culmination of human art that has been fed into it to train it to do what it does. So even the work that you're seeing created by AI, like I say, it's just a culmination of the training data. So what makes us human? Our creativity, our vision, the emotions that we put into things, the life that we breathe into our art. And so even with AI taking over certain things, we are still so important in the process to bring that life into it. You can create an animated film and it'll be okay, but if you have people there refining it, fixing it, really adding that personality, that character, it just brings it to life. And so while there's a lot of fear, and like I completely understand, I've seen it, I've experienced it myself, there is so much you can do to really embrace it as well. There are AI tools that are not generative AI. What we are most familiar with is, you know, type a prompt, it generates an image, it generates a video. There's also AI-assisted tools where you retain most of the control. You do most of the creating. The AI is there to do finer tweaks, to really polish things up, to fix things. In animation, let me just give you one example, and then I'm going to stop. But you create keyframes. So you do the main motion, and then maybe the next main motion. There's now animation tools, AI tools, that can interpolate the in-betweens to create the natural flow. So you're doing the big movements, you're creating that personality in your character. It's just filling in the blanks. So speeds things up, saves you time, allows you then to fine tweak the main movements. So yeah, that's why I'm so glad to be here, and also to represent women in tech, because there are women involved in this space and we, I think, are not very often represented. So glad to be here to share and to encourage people to start looking at the good that can be done, the tools that are available that can help you, and like I say, you know, friend not foe. You can see it as a collaborator and it doesn't have to take over everything.
I hope not, because I'm looking forward to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the next installment coming next year. And one of the things that made that film so fascinating is its retro feel. Where you're seeing the hand drawing of the animation popping off screen. AI for me couldn't, well, at least not yet, not with the technology that's available now. It can't give me that feeling sitting in the audience, can it?
Spider-Verse was huge for the animation industry. It was huge for everybody, but as animators, everyone was blown away. It was massive. And there's so many layers to it. Like the smallest thing, I'll never forget, I attended a talk years ago. I think it was at the Cape Town International Animation Festival, where Gordon Ramsay, who's the director, spoke on Spider-Verse.
Not the chef. Not the chef. There's Gordon Ramsay, who's a chef.
No.
The one who swears a lot.
You're throwing me off here now.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I was just clarifying that it's not the same person. It's a different person altogether.
But now you've got me second. Yeah. No, but he spoke about some of the nuances of how this was created, and the smallest things that were put in to create detail. A building that's modeled, every little window is not cut out, and then a multicolored block put on the inside to create that vision of the different color light that now shines out of the building. The smallest things that got considered. AI is not going to look at those little things, and that's why I say in terms of fine-tuning, tweaking things, just adding those finer details that really brings the human element.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
John, you, I imagine, were one of the early adopters of AI, and you saw the opportunity in the technology and what it can do. How has it helped you in your work, and how do you think we should start exploring opportunities?
Yeah, I've got a very sort of maybe unconventional look at AI. I actually think it doesn't do anything. It really is useless tech by itself. And even like my friends who are animators, the great animators make AI really sing. It really shows when it's used as a tool. If you go to AI and say, make me a dog in a Superman costume, yes, it can do it. But when you actually see craftsmen and women using it, people who really know stuff, like if you're using it for filmmaking, somebody who really knows storytelling, who really knows lensing, really knows lighting, then it's a really great tool. And the more I don't know how many people have had this experience. The more you engage with AI, the more you realize it's useless, really. And so it is the prompter that really that makes the big difference. So I kind of see it as like a Photoshop. It's Photoshop. Photoshop is an amazing tool if you're an artist, but it doesn't do anything by itself. And as soon as you approach it like that, I think it helps, helps with the fear element and seeing it for where it's really valuable. So we use it in so many different places in our business. And why I'm very excited about this space, I like to get into things really early and then break them and play with them and see how they work. And AI is so important in every aspect of our business. And why I think it's important is because particularly, we're very, in Africa Podcast Network, we're very invested throughout Africa, and we've spent a lot of the last 2 years in the international market building bridges between Africa and the rest of the world. And Africa's been at such a disadvantage in business and in tech for so long. And I really think that this is the level playing field. Like, everyone has access to this tech. And for small businesses who are super hungry and really like looking to make a difference and build things in the space, this AI world has opened up so many opportunities to compete with anyone in the world, to build tech that is competitive globally, to make 3D animation that is competitive globally because of how a smaller team, yes, I'm just sort of bypassing the ethical part of it losing it. Yes, it's losing a lot of intermediary jobs. Yes, it's making things a lot faster. From the entrepreneurial perspective, it is amazing because now you can build a big business and with very large resources with very little, you really leaning into this AI space. But it requires a lot of time, a lot of effort to figure out what's what, how it works. And I think like playing in that space, you get to learn a lot about where it's a valuable tool, where it's effective and where it's not effective. In podcasting, there's multiple layers in which we're starting to engage it and bring it in, from very simple to very complicated. And yes, the question is always like, what happens when, I don't know if you've seen this Google LM thing, which is insane. You just type a topic into LM and then this audio podcast spits out between two people. They laugh at each other's jokes. They make the opposing points. It's insane. And I think the exciting headspace is how things are and not how things are going to be. And I think, like you said, the genie is out the bottle. Us really, and it's why I think incubators are so important in this space. Like training people, because the ethics of it has to get baked into how it evolves. Because there's shitty people out there. It's gonna be abused. So you can't control what it is. We could have all had a a meeting about saying, should we build a nuclear weapon? It doesn't matter anymore. They exist. You know, AI is in the marketplace, and it is showcasing that everything in our business is shifting, and there's no stopping it. And so we need to be part of that shift. And I think the longer, this is just the longer you hesitate to play with the tool, you're just getting left behind, because it is a powerful tool that's available to you right now for $9.99. You know what? So there's literally no barriers to entry to so much more. And for me, that's a very exciting prospect, and I'm deep in it in so many like unhealthy ways.
I'm so tempted to ask, what do you mean unhealthy ways?
I just mean like, have many conversations.
With
one of
the
the things.
computer.
So for example, there's a lot of things that I'm playing with. For example, I'll just throw one thing out. I like to just see what it can do and what it can't do. Not partially because it's interesting, and partially how can it benefit my business. So for our business, we are scaling so fast, and I've spent this year like trying to get hold of CEOs of some of the biggest podcasting businesses in the world to become mentors for our business, and it hasn't worked out. So the other day I decided to build a completely AI board. So I took like 10 people from the industry. I had Elon Musk's on my board, by the way. Steve Jobs is on my board. I've got Shonda Rhimes on my board because it's a media empire. I did hours of research with GPT to create personality profiles, to see how they'd respond to different situations, to analyze what big decisions they made at pivotal times in their businesses, created like pages and pages of documentation of how they would react in any situation. Then I created a board overview of like what I wanted the board to do. And now when I have very difficult discussions or decisions to make, I plug in this board and I say like, let's have a quick round conversation on this. I get like Elon's extremely brutal. I often have to cut him out of like I say, don't engage him. But sometimes you do want this very like straight line thing. You've got Steve Jobs, with a very specific taste, and you get the personalities, and you can get them to vote, and they'll vote on this particular topic. And whether you use it or not, that's just one of many sort of different use cases where you can use it to your advantage to help benefit, just taking one step forward.
Yeah. Tapelo, I was doing some work at the Africa Tech Festival, was it 2 weeks ago now? And obviously a lot of focus was around AI. And what was very clear was that it is very much technology that seems to be generally created, designed by the global north, which we then need to adopt. And there was a move that we start needing to be part of the conversation and leapfrogging, actually. And what your company is doing around language is an essential element, right, of ensuring that the global South's voice, literally in this case, is heard.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we do at Botlal is we build AI for African languages. So similar to what the major tech companies are doing, and we're applying it locally, really just to allow people to go through life on a daily basis, speaking a language they understand and trust. And if you look at like African languages over time, so for the most part, they haven't been like well documented or digitized. And now moving into the era of AI, we're still facing the same problem where the language is not digitized. So the AI, because it's scraping data online, so the AI wouldn't understand the local languages. But what does that mean for us as Africans who speak these languages, which are like very deeply tied into our identities? It means we start losing function in those languages, because every time I go to a bank or I engage a service provider, I need to change my language. It means we also lose a part of ourselves. A lot of people, you ask, so tell me about yourself, who are you, where are you from? They'll tell you, I'm from the Eastern Cape, I'm Xhosa, right? It's a deep part of their identity, and the work we do isn't just, for the commercial transactions and whatever, but it's ensuring that we keep this identity on the continent, right? Because another big issue that's happening is that you get people coming in and building for Africa instead of with Africa. So we're trying to change the narrative around and build locally from Cape Town global solutions that will understand and speak African languages. So I'm sure a lot of people have tried using these LLMs or translation models, and we see that they don't perform that well, right? So the way we speak in South Africa is very unique, right? You start with a hello, then it's a how's it, dinsang. There's a lot of code switching. There's a lot of personality that's carried through language. And we need to train our models in a way that reflects us and the way we use these languages. So really, that's the work we do, and why it's important. There's a lot of other reasons.
And what are some of the practical applications of your work beyond translating? I mean, I think somebody had mistakenly typed in ikele instead of ikeke onto, and of course those are two completely different meanings, right? And context as well. How does your tool help in practical applications?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you think about AI as a tool, not just what we do, right? You need to think about where you're applying it and the value that you're gonna get out of it, right? So you're not just throwing technology at a problem, right? And the question you're asking is very important because it highlights that. So in South Africa today, you can't register a business online if you don't understand English. You can't open a bank account online if you don't understand English. So people are being excluded from the formal digital economy. So when it comes to the practical implementation, that's what we think of. The technology is just a way of getting to that application. So we work with businesses to allow them to engage their customers in languages they understand and trust. So we've made the MultiChoice DSTV WhatsApp line available in multiple languages. So now people who can't speak English, aren't comfortable speaking English, can send a voice note and get a response in a language that they trust and understand. So really, we're helping businesses and people bridge that gap across various industries.
And voice, of course, being important because, as you said, a lot of the African languages are not written, and many people will not be able to type a certain word, but they can say it, and then to get a response that is also voice is going to be important.
Yeah, absolutely. So voice is actually one of our biggest use cases, because if you look at certain industries, like in the call center, there's a lot that happens there. There's fraud, people are being taken advantage of, because you get there, you speak your language, the person on the other side speaks your language, but there's no quality assurance monitoring because the tools aren't available in local languages. So we can say, hey, John, or we can flag to the company that, this person is actually taking advantage of John, but they were speaking Zulu the whole time. So we can flag that, and that's purely speech.
Yeah. Dave, that is a wonderful, practical, sort of constructive use of AI, right? Because you hear that and you go, that's a fantastic solution. How do we encourage this creative economy into realizing that on scale?
Well, yeah, I love this because this is just such an example of how AI really can increase inclusion, because you've got now people that wouldn't be able to access services, and because we've got entrepreneurs that have gone, okay, we can use this technology to enable inroads for people to access it using their own natural language, not to fill out complicated forms, not to have to change the way that they speak, but something that can through natural language create broader access. This kind of thing deserves to scale, and it's part of the reason why I'm so excited to encourage everyone to get into AI, because it's only scary to the extent that you don't actively and proactively engage with it. So to acknowledge some of the issues before I get into some of the goods, before I decided to jump in with both feet, I looked at, first and foremost, the climate and environmental crisis that we're facing. These AI data processing centers use an enormous amount of water and energy in order, if every single response that we use, that we create, requires energy and requires water. So that's one thing. Secondly, it's further centralizing wealth, and creating these bigger wealth gaps and centralizing wealth. A lot of the AI data that's generated in Africa is exported and used to train international systems, and then we pay subscription access to it. So you've got we've now, if you thought that the digital divide was big, the AI divide is even bigger.
Yeah.
The difference between people that are able to access and use AI tools effectively versus the people whose work is going to be displaced by people who, because they don't understand how to navigate and use these tools, is going to make the digital divide look like a little skip. So those were all reasons not to get engaged. But then you start looking at how people are practically using the tools to address some of these issues. So, for example, climate scientists are using AI to process much more accurate projections than we've ever had before, literally on the ground to save species in contexts like Hawaii, where these tools are being utilized. There's multinational organizations like Google are creating huge new investments in energy that outstrips even what governments are investing in to create renewable and clean energy to power these data centers. And water has never been as high up on the corporate and developmental agenda. So we have a choice now to lean back and let change happen to us, or to lean in and get involved in shaping this change in a way that's going to be productive and creative. So what I find really helpful is to think about this AI conversation as having four kind of voices. You've got all of which are necessary. You've got doomers, gloomers, bloomers, and zoomers. And so the doomers are going, AI is going to wreck us. So you've got people like Nobel Prize winner Jeffrey Hinton saying this is going to be the end of humanity if you don't wake up. And they are really important to make us put firm guardrails in place. And the EU has put in protections around what can and can't be loaded onto AI. You've got gloomers that are going, things are going to get way worse as a result of AI. There's going to be blood on the streets. People are going to lose their jobs. You're going to create income inequality. You've got bloomers that are going, actually, it's going to create better access and opportunity than ever before. We're going to create a ton of new opportunities and jobs. But we need to be aware of the downsides, and we need to invest in training and good policy. This is clearly where I identify. And then you've got Zoomers, which are like, move fast and break things. Like, make mistakes, get out there and just do it, and don't think too much about the consequences. And
why choose Zuma for that? Never mind. Never mind.
South Africa, Zuma's got a whole other context. So yeah, I mean, I think that all of those voices are very necessary. It's kind of like if you watch Formula One, we need the accelerator and we need the brakes. I really want to strongly encourage everyone here to really invest in AI as a skill and capability. I want to share two brief stories. Very easy to access technology. You can turn it on, turn it off. First question is, what technologies do you use? You know, it's no secret AI is vastly more than just the LLMs. It's more than just, ChatGPT and Grok and Gemini and whatnot. There's a whole bunch of tiered tools that we can very happily go into that are now niched per sector. And that's where the interesting stuff is happening. Technology is easy. The second level is skill. And you can always take a course and you'll be able to catch up at some point. If it feels like you're falling behind, you can go and you can develop skills through playing and practicing. But the third level, which is really difficult and time-consuming to get, and which is most fundamentally human, is know-how. And you only develop know-how through years of sitting in the game. And I'm encouraging everyone now to start developing know-how. It's kind of like, we hear that thing like the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, the second best time is today. You will be so grateful in 2 years' time that your today's self started investing in the skills and mucking around and learning these technologies. So last thing, a few years ago I went to university I took a course in the US, and one of my classmates had founded a tech company called Zebra, which is now one of the world's largest in medical imaging. And he told me then in 2017 that they could do more accurate scanning, more accurate radiology than doctors that practiced in the space. And So he was saying we've partnered with hospitals, in that case, all around Israel, and we fed in hundreds of thousands of images, and our AI is now can detect things like breast cancer with a higher degree of sensitivity than someone that's been practicing for 10 years in the game. That was in 2017. And Jeffrey Hinton, our famous doomer, came out in 2018, 2019 looking at this, and he said radiology is over, game over, no more radiology in 5 years' time as a result of AI. What has actually happened is that there is more work for radiologists today than there was in 2018, 2019 before this tech. What's happened is it's become much more accessible to more people. More people are getting scans more accessibly than ever before. We're able to detect these diseases better, and radiologists are moving into radiology labs, and there's more money and better outcomes from it. And that's what's called Javon's paradox, and it's exactly what we're going to see in the creative sector for those that embrace it. It's going to create more demand and new work in the very same sectors that it's disrupting.
Absolutely. Irish, you recently attended a conference on AI and regulation, because that I think becomes, it's almost paradoxical, right? Because the thing that makes AI great is the fact that it's ungovernable and the fact that it's growing at a rate that is beyond exponential. And yet, we live in structures and communities and societies, and we need some level of, providing some frameworks as to how we operate. What Europe is doing is very different to what the US is doing. What should we be doing?
What should we be doing? There are different approaches being taken naturally by different countries and different regions. And it becomes very tricky, I said to you earlier as well, because ChatGPT is everywhere. So if one country is governing it in this way, another country's got totally different laws, how do you approach this, right? So it does become very, very tricky. Do you all kind of follow a universal framework? These are things that people are looking into. And I think a huge consideration is, are you prioritizing innovation or are you prioritizing safety? Because there's two kind of competing arguments here. Like you'll find some countries, I would say the US, prioritizing innovation because they always want to be in the forefront. Other places are more worried about people's safety, the issues that may be caused by AI. So I think it's a very a very difficult question because it depends on what South Africa decides is more important, and how are we going to approach this? Are we going to come up with our own framework completely? Are we going to try and borrow from the EU or the US or China? There are some leading men in this in this regulation space, and like I say, it's vastly different across the board.
John, should we even be regulating it, or should we just leave it alone?
As an obvious Zoomer over here.
By the way, the Zoomer is Z-O-O-M-E-R, not the former president of this country.
Look, it's evolving so quickly. It's such a tricky question. And I really like to be involved in the solutions. And I think historically regulations come later often. And like it's very hard. I mean, what's happening, just sort of maybe an unconventional view. As a musician, like most of my life I was a musician, and seeing what is capable in the AI space in music is so sort of unbelievable. But the innovative in me says, okay, well, if this is what it's already doing, and like with respect, you can identify the Spider-Man, but that's now, it's moving so fast. What is next when AI can play all the instruments and AI can sound like all of this stuff, and to be fair, some of the music it's making out, you can't tell. It's actually really good at it. So then what happens is the sort of everything you know about being a musician is gone, for better or for worse. And so what happens is the AI becomes the instrument. What I think is going to music is going to change. How we approach music is going to change. If I learned an instrument my whole life, but now if I have access to every single Miles Davis solo ever made, and I want to create something with that knowledge, that becomes something else different. And I think I'm very focused on, particularly in the creator sector, my whole business. So just the backdrop, so that I don't want to seem
Too much of a
unsympathetic, right? But so my whole business, my whole life has been about empowering the creator economy. I run the largest empowerment hub for creators in Africa. My entire business, APN, is about a creator-centric future. I believe that TV is becoming podcasting, film is becoming podcasting, and the creators are at the front of that instead of these big businesses. And that is the center of the world. I don't think a lot about how to protect them from the AI that is coming. Personally, I don't. What I'm looking at is how are these trends fitting into, how can we utilize those trends to further empower creators? And if creators are not thinking about what I'm talking about now, and instead of going like, I just need to protect what I'm doing, which is important, and there's an entire conversation, and the doomers and the gloomers are taking care of that, right? They're always going to be behind the curve, and something new is coming that we don't know what it is. Very hard to know what it is or protect what it is yet. And so that is really a big thing on my focus. Should it be regulated? Absolutely. Again, I do believe it's the incubators, like teaching ethics in this space, enforcing it. How are we going to do that? And so anyway, that's not the answer to the question, but that's
but
something.
It's giving us enough to farm around, because Tapelo, you raised an important point on Friday when you're having the briefing session. City of Cape Town and the Western Cape have the lowest unemployment rate. It's still high, but it's lowest comparatively. And part of that has been driven by the BPO sector, right? And if you are creating tools where ultimately there will be no need for a human being to be dialing my number and to be engaging with me, because the technology is going to be so advanced that whatever answer I give it is going to be able to give me the information, and it will get it right all the time, 100% of the time, and hopefully not try and scam me. That's a whole sector that the city is investing in that in a few years' time might become totally redundant.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we really need to have intentional conversations about this. We shouldn't just scrape it to the side. A lot of people will be like, we've seen innovation in the past, new jobs are created, the problem solves itself. I think the rate at which AI has evolved from the first release of ChatGPT to where we are now, the first video generation model that came out, I think 2 years ago, to what we're seeing now is very different. So we need to remember that it's moving very, very fast. And secondly, we need to remember we're in South Africa with a very unique history and a very unique reality. And that's why these conversations here are even more important and require significantly more intention. And they should be had across government in every single department. The BPO space is very interesting. So the government wants to employ 500,000 people by 2030. It's still out there, it's still on the internet, but it's not considering the change that's happened since that plan was put in place. So we need to be able to move faster with these plans that were made a couple of years ago. And great intention and all of that, but these also need to evolve as these new models come out, as the reality changes within these spaces. And that's why I think the regulation is very important, right? Because we might say as South Africans, okay, we won't touch the specific sector, but the reality is someone else will build it, right, from Europe or wherever, and they'll sell it to South African companies.
Yeah.
So that's why I think we need really strong, robust frameworks to govern this. And I think one key thing that was also mentioned is the data around that the AI uses. So using someone's previous creative works, I don't think it's just like IP infringement. It's also like identity theft. We all know that specific creators have a specific style. And now if you can just prompt something and tweak a few things, it's beyond just the data. So I think, it's very, very important that we actually invest in these conversations and give them the resources they need and the research they require.
So Dave, if you were advising the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition, and you're advising the MEC for DDAT and advising James Foss for the City of Cape Town. How do they start even shaping that regulation in a way that it is not going to be stifling creativity and exploration of opportunity in the space? Because one has to agree with John, it's happening, it's here, let's deal with it, and let's hopefully get ahead of it. But if you have a real concern, and what's the latest unemployment rate, 32% or something in the country right now, and protecting people's IP and creativity and all those kind of things, how do you even begin navigating this murky space?
Yeah. When change comes faster than you can keep up with it, you need to decentralize control, and that's particularly true when it comes to policy making. People are working this stuff out on the edges. So the best people to speak to about BPO transformation and AI are the leaders in that sector. So what Erica and I were chatting about before this session is the need to have conversations. You said it also. One of the most interesting concepts that I've come across this year is what sociologist Alison Pugh has called the last human job, which she says is called connective labor. And she says essentially that AI is essentially always going to be catching up to human desire and need. So she says, let's look at very practical, let's call them coalface outcomes where human connection makes a tangible difference. Things like if you're a teacher, you can play videos from like Khan Academy and you can move through the syllabus, but if you show human care and touch, you're going to get better educational outcomes.
True.
And Pew says that across virtually every sector that's being impacted by AI, there's a necessary co-investment in connective labor, and I've taken that quite literally in my field. So kind of her thesis is essentially go and meet the people that are creating transformation at the coalface and kind of ask them how we can deploy these tools to make their lives better. And they're going to tell you very directly where the threats are and the opportunities. So we need to kickstart this conversation like we've got now, and we need to keep it going, and you need to build conversational momentum and be very responsive to that. I'm with John, though. I think we need incentives more than we need breaks right now. Let me give you an example of where we're seeing interesting things emerging that I don't know where policy, how you regulate for policy around. So one of the conversations, I'm getting out there and having conversations. So I meet a guy, I've started a conversation on this so that I'm having it the 27th of every month. I'm inviting people to come and have discussions around how AI is affecting things. So the first sponsor that comes to host this space is a guy who's already making millions in AI in Cape Town. This is his play. Fascinating. He goes to companies and he goes, before you put out a job to the job market, come and speak to us. We want to apply for that job. And he runs an AI company. Literally, this blew my mind. We want to apply for the job. And so he was like, so someone's got a job. Let's call him like an HR administrator. He goes, give my company the job of HR administrator. They spend 3 months onboarding an AI, meeting people. They do connective labor. They meet people on site. They do interviews. They plug in all of this data and processes, preferences, who's the manager into the little AI system. And it takes 3 months to onboard this virtual employee. And then you pay his company 50% of that person's salary. And on their side, they create one job, and every one job that they create on their side can essentially manage 20, 30 jobs. Wow. Freaking crazy, right? So then the thing is that what they're doing is that they're literally, they're saying these AI employees don't make mistakes, they deliver higher quality, they get better every year,
they don't go on strike,
leave.
They don't have, exactly.
All of this stuff. And he was like, and we only need a 10% raise every year, whatever, and we're getting exponentially better. I was like, dude, this is probably not going to be great for creating employment in the sector. And he was like, he said there's like a tax on all goods that you have called labor. And he was like, this is going to reduce the costs of getting things to the public massively. And he was like, we're just investing in creating efficiencies and we're going to let the market sort it out. And it was such a wake-up call for me, because I was like, there's going to be blood on the streets with regards to unemployment, because there are very smart people that are actively working to create efficiencies where we used to have jobs. And one last story about why I think it's important not to overregulate that. So I've moved through several of these transitions before. I co-founded South Africa's social media agency, which grew fast and was acquired. I launched a business within Ogilvy Worldwide that scaled to help this world's largest ad agency group do digital transformation. And one of our clients was SAA. And early in this transformation, let's call it 2012, I've forgotten the year, we said to SAA, you can do fully digital check-ins, like fully digital boarding passes, and you can create this huge efficiency in your business. Like, we'll upgrade your website, we'll link it, and this was before One Time and everyone else was doing this. And they were like, no, we need to protect the jobs. And that was just one decision after another, which was ostensibly, I get it, it was pro-human, anti-tech. And the net result is that SAA collapsed because they became totally inefficient. And I think that as an economy, we are too small to regulate ourselves out of the global conversation. We need to invest in the kind of businesses that can scale and help us compete globally.
I couldn't agree more. It's time for your questions now. We'll have a microphone that will be roving for you to put your hand up, tell us who you are, where you're from, ask a question, ideally to one person, but if you need more than one person to answer, that will be fine. And then if you are listening to us virtually, remember to use the chat function on the application to share your question or comment with us, and then it will be fed through to me and I will share it with the panel. So, show of hands for your questions. Also tell us which part of the creative economy are you and how you think AI will be impacting on you and your processes and works. Nothing. Oh, there you go. Don't be shy. It always takes the first one. Always takes the first one. Firstly, before you even tell us who you are, who is that beautiful angel on your chest?
This is Sandiso.
Oh.
It's never too early for us to involve our young ones in
Definitely not.
AI.
Definitely not. Well, both that and the fact that daycare is very expensive.
That it is.
What's your name?
My name is Babalon Tlapo. I'm currently getting into a creative space. I'm here with my mom, and she's the creative in our family. That one. So we work with a physical product, and it is a product that is handmade, and that's what makes it unique. I guess the question is, how do you think, and do you think it's possible for AI to get to a point where it helps us leverage and scale up our businesses without losing what makes our products unique, which is the handmade touch?
Can I ask what product it is that you're creating?
So handmade crocheted bags, baby toys.
Oh, lovely. Okay, like she's showing there.
Yeah.
All right. So how can AI help?
Do you think there will come a time where AI will be able to assist us to scale up our sort of businesses? Because already it is such a difficult thing to break into the digital space because we work with a physical product.
Yeah.
Will there come a time where AI is able to assist us to scale and to join the digital market without losing what makes our products unique? The
All right.
tangibility and the imperfections that make our products unique.
Whoever.
I've got to just, again, what I was saying at the beginning, and this may or not be helpful, is that AI is a tool to help with your business, right? The question shouldn't be, in my opinion, how is AI going to make my bag for me? Like, you have something unique. You've got something that is irreplaceable, but your business is what needs help. How do you scale? How do you market? How do you make it more cost effective to make more? How do you distribute to other regions? And there's all different AI tools that can help with each of those, even sitting with ChatGPT and asking for a plan, like how do I scale my business, and having a discussion about the different elements that you need to do. And that's why I say, like, particularly for the entrepreneurial mind, you've got a great product. There are loads of ways that AI can help you build your brand and make this thing into a global brand with assistance. And all it does is where AI is useful to the entrepreneur and the creator is when you're sitting at home and going, well, how do I now take this amazing thing and scale it and take it out to the world? That's my personal sort of approach to your problem.
And just to, I suppose, underscore the point, it's also understanding the system that it takes from conception of an idea to execution of the bag, and seeing what interventions AI could interface with in that process. And it could be a number of different tools that then can help with the business.
Absolutely, yeah. There might be parts of the process that are currently expensive for you to do, that there might be smarter ways to do it.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Happiness. Cool. Question, you might have to stand, good Squire. Stop it. No, it's not an early punch. How is he going to know where you are otherwise? There you go. There you go. I'm not that cruel. It's a beautiful summer's day in Cape Town.
Thank you, Africa, for the short joke. My name is Jan Bora. I run a photographic production company called iPhoto SA. Started in my garage 12 years ago. Imposter syndrome, not good enough. By chance, I outsourced a job in Johannesburg, and the guy did a terrible job. He shot in no light, no flash. I died. This was high-end, like a 400,000 rand client. I had to please explain Google Drive. Okay, Lightroom, Runner, AI, and it fixed it. I died. I died because I realized I saved my job for my client. This guy did a terrible job, but he forced me to learn Lightroom and actually download the new update, which I've been avoiding. So my question is, as a small business with limited budget on tech, and I need to scale, which I'm in the process of. I'm here not shooting, I'm a photographer. Normally I shoot this gig. It's so weird being here in the seat. So laptops versus AI, and how do I scale versus an agency that's got monster computers, monster brain creatives? So I think that's for you, Duarte, I think. And then connective labor, I realized, and I had a fear, but people need to connect. So when you're interviewing someone, or you bring the energy and the vibe as a photographer, and you spend that 5 seconds with them, and you get the best picture out of them, AI can't replace that. And I had to learn that I'm not going to be redundant. But my second question is for podcast, is how are you implementing AI in your podcast world? Just 2 or 3 levels of that, just breaking the mold of going, how do I auto-edit? DaVinci, not DaVinci, whatever you need to do. And then the challenge in my business scaling, I'm the bottleneck. Everything is coming to my phone, clients coming to my phone. How do I split myself to allow my team to do what they need to do? And the problem I have is standard operating procedures, SOPs. How do I record or onboard myself to replicate and tell them the way I do it? And that's the magic. That's how clients buy that magic. But how do I put that and make sure they know that before they start? That's my challenge.
And I suppose, bit of context, it's his personality that actually, I mean, his work is great, but it's his personality that sells the product first. And unless you have miniature versions of you all over, a person won't be able to engage with that personality. So whoever the questions were directed to, you go ahead and take them.
Awesome. All right, great. When you came into my house a few years ago, I used to have a painting or a picture that my wife had, for whatever reason, got it printed, and it was a quote by Andy Warhol that said, "Business is the most fascinating kind of art." And it just expresses the sense of what's interesting when everything is automated is your worldview, is your perspective. What do you bring to the business? And I call that, a brand for me is a feeling. And when you're intentional about what you're putting out there, who do I do business with, who are we, and you just kind of really intentional on creating good feelings when you deliver work, you're going to get repeat business. Make your customers happy, get repeat business, and keep moving from there. But one of my favorite books on that, by the way, is, and it speaks to connected labor, is called Unreasonable Hospitality, which I think is just so good for every business to read in this context because it emphasizes what's irreplaceably human. But your question was around what can scale, and the reason why I started specifically with what can't scale is that it's very important to distinguish the two. So Paul Graham, the founder of Y Combinator, which is one of the companies that scales businesses, that's what they do, says in the beginning you need to specialize in what doesn't scale. In other words, that which makes you most unique. In South Africa, our greatest legendary example was Yappie Chef, that used to write handwritten notes whenever someone bought something from them. So as we automate, the human touch becomes increasingly important. All right, so how do you use AI to scale? You do need to start learning all of the ways to take work off your plate. Your job as the founder is to get work off your plate and into other people's hands. What's great about AI is that you called it not KPIs, you called it SOPs, standard operating procedures. Even asking that question, what's my SOP for X? Just start keeping those things. That's one of the things that makes you, if someone wants to acquire your business, one of the things that they're acquiring is your standard operating procedures. They also want to know what's your track record for clients and what's your repeatable revenue. But AI, one of the best ways to think about AI is someone, I say someone that you delegate to. So if you understand the art of delegation, it's giving a clear instruction. You've got to onboard it. You've got to onboard the someone, which if anyone's got employees, you know that's a process. I also told you about the story. You've got to onboard them, and the onboarding is a process. It's a series of steps that you then encode, and that then gets distilled and refined into a process. Now, the mathematics of this make incredible business sense. If you do something that saves you 15 minutes every day, and you can put it into AI, and I'll tell you a couple of tools that I use for this. 15 minutes a day, let's say it takes 10 hours to save yourself 15 minutes a day. You use Zapier or N8N or Airtable to automate a process. You go, I just spent 10 hours to save myself 15 minutes. Well, 15 minutes times 5 days a week is 15 times 4, it's an hour 15 a week. How many weeks in a year?
52.
Times 54 weeks a year. Basically, it's 60 hours a year. All right, you've spent 10 hours to save 60 hours, plus you've freed up the psychological energy to do that. Now you find something else that saves you 2 hours a week. And so it goes. Soon you start finding that you've got more energy for the stuff that's uniquely you. Meeting with clients, seeing people face to face, developing your talent pipeline, all of which are the fundamental, unchanging truths around what makes a business scalable and acquirable. My favorite stack, by the way, I use, the thing that's most reliable for me for automating business processes, I find, is Airtable with their built-in agentic features. And then I combine that with a bunch of my favorites like Letterly for voice transcription. I use Claude for writing. I use Gemini and Nano Banana for visual creation. Photo editing, I personally use Canva because I'm a total noob and I do other stuff for it. But yeah, everyone can talk about their stuff.
What's a noob?
Like perpetual newbie in everything.
Oh, the newbies.
Newbie,
Okay, I see.
At design.
All right. There was a specific question for you, but perhaps let me get you in there first.
Oh, yeah, I want to speak to the scaling. I'm not in a position where I'm allowed to share information, but I happen to be with a company now who's doing exactly that. It's not a huge company. I'm going to be very careful how I speak here. Not a huge company, but happened to find me on LinkedIn because I was one of 2 people in Cape Town who advertised a certain skill in AI. So onboarded me. I started off on a retainer. So you can start off on a smaller budget, and started using me in the processes to optimize production processes within the company and also to start building a separate business that's AI driven. So now they've been able to take me on. The business is very, very much close to launching, in which case, when that starts bringing money in, more jobs will be created. And so this is the kind of space that I like to say is encouraging, because yes, there's job losses, there's also new jobs being created. If you can scale your business using AI, as my current employer has done, it gives space to employ new people, bring new people on. And there's been surveys been done where I think 94% of surveyed business owners, my apologies, have said, they believe that new jobs are going to be created within the next year or so. So yes, jobs are being lost, but it's one of these things where it happens every time there's a revolution, and we are in the 4th industrial revolution now. Every time this happens, it's cycles that we go through, and every time people are just as scared, it's like, oh no, there goes my skills. But I think it really comes down to business owners. I think the onus falls on them to really start upskilling their people and start broadening their horizons with how they're using these tools. And you can start small. You don't have to start on a huge budget. Start with one person. Start on a retainer. Bring someone on who's got skills. You can get a recent graduate. They're always looking for opportunities. Somebody who has the skills that you're looking for. LinkedIn is great, a great space to start searching. And build from there. It's one step at a time, one day at a time. It's impossible to keep up with everything happening in the space. It really, even people who work in it every day, myself included, it's extremely overwhelming. There's new developments all the time, but you do the best you can, and just one step at a time.
And I suppose that speaks a lot to the potential with AI, right? You free yourself of the bits of the job that takes you away from being creative, right? It's the menial tasks, it's the boring things that you really do not want to do. And if you can then either get a retainer for someone like Irish, or acquire those wonderful tools that were listed to actually take that off your plate, then you get to play more. You don't have to worry about, did I send an invoice? No, something else is taking care of that, because that is actually happening, and it doesn't take you away from creativity, I don't think. Yes, sir.
Lots of podcasting questions.
It was, how do you utilize? How do you utilize AI within different levels of your podcast?
All right, I could be here for an hour on that. There's so many ways to engage there. So, just before podcasting, when I talk about podcasting, I'm talking about video and audio, not just one. The podcasting space is moving very quickly, and so across the board, there are a lot of. The easy ones are Audible cleanup tools, which are really important. So, you can do an interview with someone in the street, in a busy street, and get sort of studio quality audio cleaning. So the audio cleaning stuff is amazing. In the videos, so again, there's so many. Auphonic is my favorite. There's Adobe has a free one, but it's like a sledgehammer. It's like on and off. There's no nuances. I don't like that one, but Auphonic is a really good one. And then in video, there's so much exciting things happening in video. And like I said, gone are the days where a podcast was you and your uncle in your bedroom. Production quality is becoming more and more important. And it enables podcasters to build backdrops, like high-end studios in their bedroom, or really, show format is becoming a thing now, where your show needs to have an idea and a concept and all those things. So you're able to create a lot more of those tools from your bedroom. Better audio, better video, more opportunities to create something unique in the space. And then sort of going up a few levels, a big part of our business is driving monetization to podcasts. And one of the inefficiencies in the space is when brands are working, this is going to get a bit scary, but where brands are working with podcasters in content, which means the podcaster is saying, before I get into the show, I want you to buy Coca-Cola, whatever it is. Now, in advertising world, there is an approval process, but a podcast is one and done. They do their podcast, they go home. So what happens when the brand says, you didn't pronounce my brand right? You've got to get them to come back. So we're actually experimenting with permission-given AI clones, just so that we can change the ad portion of the podcast after it's been recorded. And it's those sorts of efficiencies that are very, very exciting. I mean, I've got another 50 tools. But then just to go back to the scaling one, something that has been life-changing for me was that when you are a sort of business owner and you've got a lot of things you want to do and the world is your oyster, it's very easy to sort of procrastinate and try and figure out what the next step is. So I did this system must have been just under a year ago, that has completely transformed my business. And I sat with one of the GPTs, and I explained in great detail what my 5-year objectives were, my 3-year objectives were, my 1-year objectives were, what I wanted to do with my business. And then I'm going to try and make this simple. I built a little unit using Airtable through Zapier, my calendar, and an Excel spreadsheet. And what happened, this has absolutely dramatically increased efficiency and productivity in my little business and made it really scale, is that what happens is every Monday, my AI tracks the meetings I've set up with my Airtable to-do list, and it compares it to my objectives. So it will tell me on Monday, listen, you're not on track to what you're trying to do in 3 years' time because you said you were going to do more investment meetings and you only did 1. This week, I recommend you do focus more on that. And that's really, I mean, I can tell you any entrepreneur knows there are days when you're just sitting in front of your laptop and you know there's stuff that's got to happen and you're just playing a game because it's too overwhelming. And what has changed for me is that I used to stress during the whole weekends and work through the weekends and what's got to get back on the horse on Monday. It's organized my life so much that I have very relaxed weekends because I know on Monday morning this thing is going to pound me. It makes me more exhausted at the end of the day because I'm doing 10x what I was doing as a normal human. And now I'm an AI-empowered human. So it's like those sorts of things that... And the kind of silly part of it is, I didn't know, I'm not clever, I didn't figure out how to do that. I sat in ChatGPT and said, this is what I'm struggling with. And it said, well, why don't you build the system? I was like, well, how do I build that system? And it said, la, 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 la. And I said, well, I don't know how to plug Zapier into my calendar. And it said, this is how you do it. So it really enables creators to get, to really move, to just commit to moving. And that's been very helpful.
Sorry, can I just add there? Sure. So I think also with the scaling one, a lot of these tools a lot of them are free or have a free tier that allow you to, it allows you to essentially create a business case before moving on to the premium version, which is very important. And then they're also becoming they're becoming cheaper. So GPT-5 that came out a couple of months ago through the API is 10 times cheaper than GPT-4. So there's a significant price drop, and 5.1 just came out a couple of days ago. I'm not sure about the price, but I would assume it's cheaper. And then, I don't know if you're familiar with vibe coding. So the tool that you just explained now, you could create like an entirely bespoke system without using Zapier, Airtable, any of that. That works specifically to your requirements. So we've experimented with some of this for like SOPs, where we can't necessarily find a tool that fits into our business, but we can create one very quickly. But obviously, you just need to make sure it's secure and all of that stuff. But in terms of functionality, you can get it out like very quickly. And now you can also introduce AI into the tool itself, where it gives you like AI-based recommendations or whatever it is. So that's available, and you can spin up like very powerful things that you might even use in your business for like years within an hour, with no coding experience whatsoever.
That's a bit I like most, because the idea of learning coding because I need to keep up with the world is too scary a thought. But if I can just ask something of something and then it happens, magic. That's absolutely what I like. Let's take a few more questions and then we'll start. Okay, 2 hands right there.
Hi, my name is Bulelwa Base.
She's an amazing poet.
Thank you. I'm an expressionist, and amongst other things, but cheapest Africa. But fundamentally, my work is rooted in arts, culture, and the preservation of heritage. From a linguistic perspective, I'm really interested to know, and maybe, is it Tapelo?
Yeah.
You could answer this, but I mean, if the rest of the panelists would like to chip in, that would be awesome. How do you define the concept of AI within, or to a child in the rural Eastern Cape? And I'm also interested to know how you also describe the unfolding of monetization through or using AI to a township entrepreneur, because this conversation could possibly be an extremely sophisticated one if I were to explain it, for example, to my aunt in Langa Township or Iguguletu. So I'm really interested from a linguistic perspective and as a Xhosa speaking and Zulu speaking individual, how do we translate?
Those are very good questions. I mean, my answer to that instinctively would be just give the 2-year-old the technology. They'll play with it. They'll figure it out themselves, actually, in many ways. But how do you explain it to a 2-year-old in Uno in the Eastern Cape?
It's a very tough question, yeah. So I think there's 2 parts, right? So you could explain concepts without getting too technical. So, I mean, we got into AI before ChatGPT, before GenAI was a big thing, and we had to explain to a lot of people how these machines learn or what machine learning is. So we'd make like very simple examples using like a model that's supposed to classify images. How does a child know what a difference between a cat and a dog is? They learn that by seeing cats and dogs. And in a similar way, you can explain it like that's how the machine learns in one way or another. They need to see these examples. But then you can also get a bit technical, but for the 2-year-old, I think explaining the concept, but also letting them use the tool to understand the capabilities. And I think one thing, so about the township entrepreneur, so when I think of technology in general, I think about the utility of the technology more than what the technology is necessarily. Because otherwise what ends up happening is that you push technology more than utility. We saw this in the blockchain space with NFTs. Massive amounts of money went in there, but there wasn't a lot of utility behind a lot of these projects, and people lost a lot of money, and now we're seeing the utility come back up in that space again. So really, what is the problem that you're trying to solve within your business as an entrepreneur, regardless of where you are? So I'd say like going back to those first principles of venture building, those principles for the most part haven't changed. I think the tools that are available are different. So it's more about making them aware of what's possible now as opposed to pushing the technology. Because in some cases you don't need AI. Like there's a lot of things where people push AI, but it might not be necessary.
Yeah. Anyone else want to pick up on that?
Maybe. I think I'm not going to answer that question directly, but just very indirectly. We have a studio in Joburg. We have 15,000 kids that are there. It's free. We have no government support at all. And that place is, we do AI masterclasses, workshop. I think I don't know how you do it to the 2-year-old, but I think that this education space for entrepreneurship in the creative industry using AI is so pivotal that from a young age, we're seeing it transform lives in our studio every single day, because it's just part of the curricula that we're putting in there, because it is part of it. So like my kid doesn't care. My kid is 11. He doesn't care about AI because it's not important to him. He knows what it can kind of do, and he's just sort of adopting it into his life. So I do think the larger answer to your question is like really making the conversations around it, the education around it really pivotal. And second of all, again, not directly answering your question, but related, I think Dave kind of brought up earlier that yes, legislation around it is really important, but really supporting there are some incredible entrepreneurs in this country who are investing in building homegrown AI, and so much resources and need to go into that before we get taken over by international markets, because legislation isn't going to stop them. At the end of the day, the commercial model works. We've got the brain power, we've got the resources, we've got, a lot of this AI is around content, and we've got the greatest content on the planet. That I think a lot of support and resources going into this space to grow that youth market in this is really the answer to what I think you're trying to ask.
Thank you very much for that. Incidentally, they're building the first AI factory in Cape Town. NVIDIA and I want to say Cassava. It was an announcement made at the Africa Tech Festival. So the first one in Africa is going to be built right here.
There's a very sort of famous entrepreneur who's living in Cape Town who is building, his whole mission is to make the AI monetization homegrown from Africa and build a globally competitive model.
Yeah.
So I'm very much behind that.
Yeah. Thanks, Bulelwa. Yes, ma'am. There's a lady behind. Yeah. I would never do such a thing.
Hi, my name is Vicky and I'm in the digital marketing space and analytics. I've been listening to a lot of conversations going on around the use of AI and small business and how to incorporate it. And I found people are incredibly overwhelmed by as to what it can do. And I think we're not asking the right questions as to where are you spending your time and where would you like to spend your time and how can you utilize AI. So I'm truly interested in that space, like how do we optimize it? For people that want to assist other companies, how do we go about helping people, if that makes sense?
All right. Irish, shall I give that to you? How do we go about helping people?
Could I ask you to be a little bit more specific on what you mean specifically with helping people?
So my mind's full of ideas. So I myself are incredibly overwhelmed because I've heard conversations around people that have business WhatsApp and they don't know how to create templates, they don't know how to automate that. So they're spending most of their time trying to generate leads, wasting time on leads that could be better captured elsewhere. Conversations around invoicing, chasing up leads, not having a proper CRM in place, all of those types of things. So it's not something I have extensive experience on, but it is something I'm truly interested in getting involved in and helping these small businesses. Like when I was listening to what the lady behind me asked is, how do I help you focus on being creative and not chasing leads and not chasing the invoices and not doing the admin? How can we make that easier for you? So people like me that want to assist and get into this industry, how do we go about doing that? Does that make more sense?
It's a very good question, and I would appreciate if the other panelists could weigh in as well. But what I do want to say is, just looking at the most basic example of ChatGPT, which we all know and I'm sure most of us use. ChatGPT, first of all, please be wary, and I'm putting this out here as like a disclaimer for everybody. You get what is called AI hallucinations. It's not always right. It doesn't always get things right. You can ask it something very simple. Go on your phone today and ask it what is the current time and the date in South Africa. It'll probably get it wrong. So the simplest things it can get wrong. But that said, GPT, I have found, has been very, very good for strategizing, coming up with game plans, layouts for things. If you're specific enough, and especially if you've got the ideas in your mind and you're not exactly sure how to put it out in writing, the voice function, it's so helpful. I use it all the time. I just talk to ChatGPT. I'm like, I need help with something. And then you just ramble. I promise you it does such a good job of just, organizing your thoughts into coherent sort of steps. And I feel like this got very loud very quickly. And helping you sort of come up with a game plan. And I've used that to come up with like just a basic step-by-step guide and then gone in and said, okay, I don't like this step. Can we tweak this a little bit? Can we do that? And found that it's really helped me to organize my life and come up with ideas and plans moving forward. At the end of the day, something like an LLM, like ChatGPT, pulls from the internet. So the millions of resources that we are never going to have the time to look at, however many billions of human beings could never get through that in our lifetime, ChatGPT has it all, boom, in one little space. So people go on the internet, they share advice, ChatGPT draws from that. There's studies, there's all sorts of research being shared online. Everything comes through in GPT. They're going to answer the question as best they can. I normally put in there, please be objective, don't be biased, don't give me the answer that you think I want to hear, give me the proven methods that actually work. So it just comes down to really, from my advice, using that as a starting point. But I really want to hear what everyone else has to say.
So I think on helping businesses that don't have like CRMs or anything like that, it's just showing them like potential ROI from, or return on investment from automation and structure. Because sometimes, and I think, in the creative space it happens a lot where maybe someone's providing a service and they might not see the need to employ someone who takes care of something else. But actually showing them that, you'll get more done, you'll get more work, and ultimately everyone will benefit from just having an additional person and spending more on that person. I think really showing people that and showing them that there's a benefit to automating, to having these processes and structures in place. I think once people get that concept and understand that concept, it's very easy to identify specific issues where they can start implementing structure, CRMs, or processes that make the whole business more efficient.
I'm going to start wrapping up the conversation now, and we'll give you each a chance to share your final thoughts. But in a world that is overwhelming as far as what is available, I keep on coming back to the thought that what often then is key is knowing what it is that you need, right? Because unless you know what it is that you're solving for, literally you're going to do what John said, just sit in front of your laptop and play a game instead, because, oh my word, I don't know what to do with this, essentially. So your final thoughts, your final invitations, I suppose, to the creative economy to really start playing, start making mistakes if necessary, start learning, start growing with this tool, and how they can truly realize potential with it, and not be stuck in that state of being afraid and being apprehensive, and rather see where it can go. We'll start with you, Dave.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Africa. Thank you for hosting such a lovely conversation. It was really good, and I've so enjoyed everyone's perspectives on this. We must do more of these conversations. Thank you, Erica, for bringing us together, and Michael. So I'd just like to pick up on that question. Every business starts by solving a problem for someone, and the way that you sell a business is by telling a story, and you're never the hero of the story. It's always the customer whose problems you solve, and so if and I think that how you're going to make sense of this AI thing is just looking at one problem at a time, one worthwhile problem at a time, and finding out like the most replicable way to solve that. And I think, I just want to use your business just as an example, because we can apply it all to ourselves. You take something that's a hassle for people, like, that it's like, following up with people, invoices and that kind of thing. And, you start an open exploration. How can I use AI to solve this? And be open to the idea that there might be a third-party tool that will do it. And this is what I want to encourage people to do. If you can, as Tapela was saying. So, firstly, my first bit of is focus on the utility. Focus on the problem that you're solving. The technology isn't going to solve the problem. Know the problem that you're solving, so focus on the utility. Yes, there's a free tier, but I'm just going to really encourage you to please just, if you can, just put a couple of bucks aside for subscriptions. on these tools, and you're not going to get it right every time. But if you compare that, creative business is difficult, but if you compare the subscription cost of something to what it might cost to hire someone full-time, you can use these tools to start gaining an actual advantage. And that could lead to you actually employing people to operate these things over time. So I just want to build on what you said, to step out of the fear of how this could displace you and into the courageous decision today to play. Because that's the best way that we learn, is to be playful. And to be playful is not to be scared of mistakes, but to account the fact that you will make mistakes into your calculations and move forward from there.
All right, Dave, thank you very much. Thapelo?
Yeah, I think just jumping on from where you left off, I think, yeah, get in there, fail fast. We've got now access to tools and resources with capabilities that, you know, we couldn't imagine a couple of years ago. And this is allowing us to compete at a global level for a fraction of what it would have cost a couple of years ago. So, and you know, a lot of people say this, like, you know, there's going to be a very big distinction between people who optimize their processes and work through AI versus people who don't. That is true, it's a reality. And there's not a lot that we can do about it. And we just need to start using it. But I think we also just need to be a bit more careful with how we utilize the technology. We need to be ethical. And we need to just make sure that at the end of the day, we're people solving problems through a very specific tool. I think there's been tools that have come in the past, electricity, you know, the steam engine, internet, and it's disrupted a lot of spaces, and we found ways to do work and to exist with this technology. And I don't think at that level a lot has changed. So really understanding that it's just a tool, a technology, just like we've experienced in the past. Yes, very powerful. Yes, evolving very quickly. But like, let's get our hands on it and start utilizing it.
Fantastic. John?
Just repeat everything there. I think, yeah, the idea, you know, just to unpack both of those things, you know, it's the term when you say focus on its utility, I think the problem is when you're like looking for AI to solve a problem, that you really got to know what the problem is first. And if you've got questions, it can help you answer those questions. It can help you find those questions. If you're trying to figure out what to do next, and that's why the answer might be AI, it might be talking to your neighbor, but it gives you options. And I think the idea that you should be in it and playing now will greatly benefit you. GPT hallucinates like crazy. If you tell it what's the name of the bakery at the end of the road, it'll tell you, even if there's not a bakery at the end of the road, you know? But there's no way you're going to know that until you really are in it and playing with it and trying it and seeing how it fails. Remember at the beginning I said AI is useless, and the reason I say that is because of how much time I've spent trying to get it to create similar characters for two different scenes, or the basic stuff. It can't do it without a lot of a lot of time, a lot of effort. And so the later you get in, the harder it's going to be for you. You just got to immerse yourself in it. And the second point, what Dave was also saying, the cost of one of these things compared to the value, it's great. If you're not on a paid GPT, you're crazy because you don't understand the actual value it can bring to you.
Irish?
Okay, so I thought I would start this off by having a human moment quickly. Okay, so I had a penny drop moment just now. It was Peter, not Gordon. So you were right. Okay.
You had a ChatGPT moment.
No, I just my brain was like, it's not. I had that wrong. Okay, so I misspoke. My apologies. The nerves got to me a little bit, but thank you for correcting me. Otherwise, I would have never known. Someone was going to go home today and look it up and make fun of me behind the scenes. Okay.
No, there are a few more Gordon Ramsays. I'm sure there's more than just one.
No, but my brain was.
But, yeah.
It was a Ramsey, and my brain went the wrong way. But
Peter
anyway, what I want to say is, I encourage everybody who's interested in regulation or ethics to look into AI Safety Cape Town. They are amazing. They're doing great work in the space. I have done 2 courses with them, an Intro to Transformative AI course and an AI Regulation course. They do it for free. You just have to apply and have good enough motivation to want to look into the space. You don't have to have a background in it. If you don't have the time to do their course through AI Safety, you can do the courses on Blue Dot Impact. Free courses. They have so many different resources on AI. It's really great. And again, you know, I understand the fear. I think we all do. And I think AI developers themselves don't always know how AI comes to make the decisions that it does, why it says the things it does. If you take 20 minutes out of your day and go and look up how these neural networks really work, it's very confusing. It comes down to numbers and codes and, you know, predictions. And so that's why, yes, it can be dangerous, it can be scary, it can be daunting, and it's nearly impossible to stay ahead. But the best time to start is right now. Put yourself ahead, try your best, just upskill. AI might seem easy because we all know how to use ChatGPT. You just ask it a question, it gives you an answer. There are so many more tools out there that require a lot more time to learn, a lot more skill. Still AI, still helpful in different ways, but take the time to upskill in tools that you know will help your business, something that makes you an asset, makes you stand out. Like I say, I mean, the tool that's helped me got me a job because there's only 2 people in Cape Town who had that on their LinkedIn. So take the time to really look into it, do research, speak to people in the space. Things like this are great. I'm so glad we could do this. And yeah, thank you to the panelists. You guys are awesome, and thank you as well very much.
You are awesome too, Irish. Thank you very much. Thank you to the entire panel, rather. Congratulations. For your engagement, and thank you for your engagement. Those are real questions. We'll obviously continue the questions over a light finger lunch that we'll be serving now. But the final 2 words, we'll call up first Soraya Mohideen again from the City of Cape Town's Department of Economic Development and Investment. Do you mind doing it from here, or do you need the thing?
Thank you. This is a little bit more casual. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for such a fascinating conversation. Like I could just sit here, I think, for another couple of hours and listen to you guys, but also listen to the questions, the prompts, the prompts that really got me thinking. I've learned a lot in this conversation. So, I mean, some of the things that came up quite early on for me were some of the negative things, and that's, I think, some of the myths we need to debunk, and the fear-mongering we sort of need to see through around job displacement. Irish was talking about art and creative works being taken without consent through image scraping. And then another point that you raised, Dave, that was quite chilling for me was around this digital divide growing wider, and it brought to mind this concept of digital colonialism. Because as Africa, we're sitting with the resources, the creativity, and you know, what does it mean if we aren't active actors in this space? So I actually got goosebumps when that concept hit. But on the positive side, there are new jobs being created. For me, as someone who works in economic growth and economic development, it's something I lose sleep over. So that's encouraging to hear and to understand where and how these jobs are being created. The toolkit helps us to speed things up, saves time, and helps us as Cape Town and as Africans to level the global playing field. I think that is really a big takeaway that I'm going to sit with and sort of ruminate over. And ultimately, what I've understood from this conversation is that creativity makes us human. AI is just a tool. It's not taking that kind of agency or that kind of creativity away from us. So as a gloomer and bloomer, I know that there are a couple of ways that I want to apply AI in my own life, looking at domain-specific skills, for example, and building my own know-how in policy frameworks, in understanding how small businesses around the globe are using these types of skills to grow their creative businesses. So there's so much we can do. It's moving quickly, very, very quickly. We know that it's still unfolding. But through our connectedness, and again, that was another point that resonated with me, convening gatherings like this, continuing the conversation, I think that we can see and identify the opportunities, and hopefully, it will become less of a boogeyman, and AI then just becomes another one of the tools that we've got in our arsenal to grow our businesses and our economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then for the final vote of thanks as well, please welcome back the Group CEO of Craft and Design Institute, Erica Elk.
Okay, can I stand here? Am I going to fight with the... Can... Yeah, thank you. That was an amazing conversation. My brain feels very sort of sore and hot from all the thinking. I definitely think the value of the conversations is that it feels like it's landed a little bit. This scary bogey person, not a person. Yeah, sorry, I feel bad that I got my back to you. Is more tangible in a way. And actually what was running through my head through some of the conversation is that there are all these inflection points in I guess the history of the world, and I can talk about it from my experience because I've been around for a while. But I don't know how many of you remember DTP. Okay. So those who do have given their age away, but I grew up learning about media production when I was a student at university, and we used to cut galley and stick it down, and the pages of the newspaper would go up and be photographed, and there was a whole photographic process, and then onto a printing press, etc. And then DTP came along, and everybody said it was the end of design. The end of publications and quality or whatever. And there was a point when there was a lot of mediocre design, and then the designers came back, the creativity came back, and they took charge of the technology, and that kind of led to actually huge improvements and in quality and variety in design and aesthetics. And thinking about it, it sort of feels like maybe we at that kind of inflection point again. There's these tools and this technology that's available to us. It feels opaque and like we can't touch it, but actually all we need to do is start. And I think just to that one question, what I'm going away with is two questions that I want to think about. Is where am I spending my time where I don't want to be spending my time? And where do I want to be spending my time? And then the journey, I think, for me, is to try to go and figure out, and I'm coming and knocking on some of your guys' doors, is what are the tools that I can use to try to help me stop spending time on things I don't want to be spending time, so that I can spend time on the things I need to or want to be spending time on. And maybe if you just take that away as the next step in your journey in the conversation. And then just to say that I think we need to be having a lot more of these conversations, so you're going to be on speed dial. But also I have a feeling about sort of this idea of masterclasses, or I was in another conversation about masterclasses, an overused concept. But actually I think they're sort of like pillars in AI, where maybe we could be doing deeper dives into what are the tools, what are the resources, how do we make these work for us? So watch this space. And then finally, to close out, I want to just a big vote of thanks to Soraya from the city of Cape Town, who in fact was one of the prodders behind let's have this conversation, but also just to the City of Cape Town for the support they give to CDI, to creatives in the city, to enable us to have these conversations and move us forward. So thank you very much.
And that's it. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you to those who joined us on YouTube, to our UNESCO City partners who joined the conversation. It really has been thrilling and fascinating. Thank you for making the time to come to the City Hall for this conversation. You get to enjoy some lunch. Good luck Uber eating something for you wherever you are in the world. Have a fantastic rest of the year, and I hope you walk away, as did Soraya and Erica, with a question or two or five that you want answered, and that perhaps one of the tools that we've been talking about here will help you to do so. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, guys.